putting the church in this situation it's really absurd.
It is absolutely insane. And if you didn't really realize it was actually happening, you would think someone made this up.
We are suing today, filing the lawsuit in the Eastern District of Virginia against Prince William County on behalf of a live church.
My understanding, though, is that you actually rented a winery, brewery for your services for a while when the school closed down. And I think it's true that if a winery or a brewery, they can rent to a church, and the church can actually worship there, so they can do the activity that's not allowed on your own property if you'll rent it from a winery. Is that true?
It's just so ironic. That's absolutely correct. They can do weddings, which 90% of the time are religious events. We as a church have utilized agricultural and winery type structures in the pandemic to continue functioning in those early months. And for them to be able to operate and do what they do and host churches who worship, and that we could not do that on a regular every week basis on our own property, it's mind-blowing.
The church function of events and things like that with the county, so we're not a problem with that. But to qualify as the same as any of these other enterprises, you have to obtain an ABC license, which is the liquor license for the state of Virginia. That's how Virginia regulates the sale of alcoholic beverages. The problem with that, of course, is it violates the church conscience, but it also treats the church in a uniquely different way. And that, Professor Hutchinson, the Constitution does not allow.
A live church, which has a special use permit, is being prevented from using the property that it owns within the meaning of the law. Why? Because the county says you need to get a liquor license. So in essence, the church is being forced to confront a Hobbesian choice. Either we become basically an alcohol establishment, or we can operate as a church, but with an alcohol license, or we have to shut down.
When the governor allowed with certain guidelines to reopen again in May for those ready to rejoin worshiping in public, we said to ourselves, man, could we just build one of these farm-like structures that wineries and breweries are building, because it's completely void of the red tape. There's no red tape for them. And so we just wanted the same privilege. Could we build a venue and worship there, serve the community from there, and do so without having to be displaced and without having to pay a rent or pay someone else's mortgage?
The church had the right to meet constitutionally and statutorily with this under the same terms and conditions as anybody else. You cannot put the church in a situation where they are being treated unequally. That violates the Constitution.
We simply went to the zoning administrator and said, why can't we do that? You've removed all the red tape for them, but for churches, you put up in place this huge amount of red tape, this special use permit, by the way, which we have. And we said, can we just build a venue like that? And when I asked the question, she looked right in my eye and said, go get your ABC license. And it was like, wow, we're a church.
That's the only way, is that you'll have to, again, pay a tax, pay a licensing fee, which, again, the county knows a church is not subject to any taxes.
The Religious Land Use Protection Act was designed to prevent exactly this situation. That's the irony of this. We've alleged in the complaint that the church meets all the requirements and has all the necessary approvals to be treated by the county as a bona fide agricultural use, similar to the farm wineries or breweries, to conduct agritourism, as they call it. It meets all the requirements, but for its sincerely held religious beliefs, which meant they did not want to obtain a liquor license.
The response that our attorneys got from the county attorney was, notwithstanding whether or not this long 13-page letter you wrote with RUPALA and state statute in it, notwithstanding whether or not you're correct or we're correct, we're not going to change our mind or rewrite anything to your benefit unless compelled to do so by a higher court. And so we're here because it was the only recourse the county gave us.
Here, all the church wanted to be was treated equally, and they were denied that right.
They were trying to resolve this at the local level, at the community level, but they couldn't. And the county dared them, ultimately dared them to file a lawsuit. Well, Dare accepted, lawsuit being filed.